Viewers. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM. Each week, we bring you some news, views, and one or two clues from the business world. And as usual, Jaff isn't here yet. Let me see if that light makes a difference. Shining a light. Uh, just adjusting things for your benefit, or certainly for the benefit of our viewers and our listeners. You're listening to the weekly radio show called Show Business on Spice FM. And for all of those practicing and celebrating Ramzan Mubarak, there was a wonderful array of voice-overs that made me reflect on the importance of this time, this auspicious time, and how fasting actually is now recognized as one of the best health benefits that you could have. And intermittent fasting, which is where you only eat for a short period of time at a particular time of the day, or where in certain examples you may fast, i.e. not eat for several days, is quite widespread now. And certainly outside of Ramzan, I regularly fast. And the health benefits are really amazing. In certain circumstances, fasting is known to reverse some illnesses and some of the issues that affect us in this day and age, particularly when we live in a time and a space and a place where there's high volume, multi-manufactured, treated food, the traditional way of cooking and preparing and even growing food seems to have been lost slightly. And if you want that type of food, then you have to pay for it. So it's out of reach of a lot of people. Anyway, Jaff will be here. You're listening to Amar without Jaff on our weekly radio show. And each week we'll bring you some news, views, and one or two clues from the business world. And Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities. So whether you have a business, you want to talk business, or you just want to learn about business, we can help. Just trying to see what happens when I move things around, because there's a bit of a flicker on the camera. Let me try and change the video. I appreciate for those who are listening may not actually experience what I am experiencing. Let's try that. I think that looks a bit better, and it's a slightly different angle, but here I am. And what an interesting week it has been. So you would have heard Jaff and I live on air talking about the big weekend, as we call it. And if you live in the northeast of England, and actually if you live anywhere, and you will be distinctly aware of Newcastle United's major success. it was brilliant to have won. And Jeff and I can talk a little bit more about that experience because it's something that is incredibly close to both of our hearts. More so him, he's far more of a supporter. But I think what I'd like to do is I posted a story on LinkedIn and last week about my affair, whether it's a love affair, that's debatable, but certainly my relationship, let's say, rather than affair. Um, and it, I'm going to read it out, and it's entitled From Fear to Faith, My Newcastle United Journey. As a kid, I stood behind the counter of our family shop on Pitt Street, watching waves of black and white shirts flood past on match days. The roar of St. James's Park was deafening, but inside our little shop, it felt like another world, one we weren't a part of. Drunken fans would stagger in, some shouting abuse. A Newcastle United Football Club didn't feel like my club. It felt distant, unwelcoming, and even intimidating. Across the road was Murray House, where, if anyone's familiar, was a community centre and where they'd organise a lot of events and basically was probably the most inclusive space at that time and era. But I'd run heart pounding through a gauntlet of racist taunts, a bit like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, except this wasn't an adventure, it was just life. Football wasn't my refuge. I was rubbish at it, always the last to be picked, and every playground rejection only deepened my disconnect from the sport that seemed to define this city. But life has a way of rewriting stories. Fast forward a few decades, and my son, the absolute joy of my life, loves football. He plays for a team far better than I ever was. And through his passion, I found mine. Now we are at every home game. We've had the privilege of sponsoring matches, being part of the business club, and feeling the heartbeat of the club in a way I never imagined. And as we made our way down to Wembley, the excitement is electric. For 20 odd years, I've supported and sponsored grassroots football from local junior teams to Newcastle University's women's team because I know now what I didn't know then. Sport is powerful. It can exclude, but it can also unite. Exactly like the Newcastle United Foundation, now where Murray House was, demonstrating the power of inclusion, and a very worthy Asian Business Connections Inclusion by Default Award winner. Newcastle United once felt like it had no space for me, but now it's different. Now it feels like home because this is my city, my region, my club. This is Newcastle, and we are united. So that was my story, and it's a real shame that Jaff has just missed my story about Newcastle United. Jaff.
Well, I think, hey, I can imagine Omar. Like most fans, it will be one of joy, emotion, excitement. Um, you know, once in a lifetime memories that probably you can only have if you were lucky enough to be in that stadium. And those that weren't lucky enough to be in the stadium, I'm sure they had equally had amazing memories wherever they watched it.
Oh, without a doubt. So anyway, I know the story was what I'd posted before before, as we were going down to Wembley, Jaff, and actually, it's not that long. So, and forgive me for our listeners because they're going to hear it again, but I want to share it with you
Yeah, yeah.
uh, for a couple of reasons because I think some of it you will get, although your engagement and relationship with football has been far more longer and established than mine. Given the fact that you went to football with your late father, is what you did. But anyway, very briefly, and I'll rattle through this quite quickly because our listeners and viewers have already heard it. But in essence, it's called From Fear to Faith, my Newcastle United story. And as a kid, I stood behind the counter of our family shop on Pitt Street, watching waves of black and white shirts flood past on match days. The roar of St. James's Park was deafening, but inside our little shop, it felt like another world, one we weren't a part of. Drunken fans would stagger in, some shouting abuse, and Newcastle United Football Club didn't feel like my club. It felt distant, unwelcoming, even intimidating. Across the road was Murray House, where I'd run, heart pounding, through a gauntlet of racist taunts. A bit like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, except this wasn't an adventure, it was just life. Football wasn't my refuge. I was rubbish at it, always the last to be picked, and every playground rejection only deepened my disconnect from the sport that seemed to define this city. But life has a way of rewriting stories. Fast forward a few decades, and my son, the absolute joy of my life, loves football. He plays for a team far better than I ever was, and through his passion, I have found mine. Now we are at every home game. We've had the privilege of sponsoring matches, being part of the business club, and feeling the heartbeat of the club in a way I never imagined. And as we make our way down to Wembley Stadium, the excitement is electric. For 20 years plus, I've supported and sponsored grassroots football from local junior teams to Newcastle University women's team because I know now what I didn't then. Sport is powerful. It can exclude, but it can also unite. Exactly like Newcastle United Foundation, now where Murray House was, demonstrating the power of inclusion and a very worthy Asian Business Connections Inclusion by Default Award winner. Newcastle United once felt like it had no space for me, but now it's different. Now it feels like home because this is my city, my region, my club. This is Newcastle, and we are united.
Oh, what an amazing story. I think it's so honest of you to kind of lay out your early years. So interesting.
Mm.
And it's like,
Yeah, it was
oh,
always it was horrible. It was horrible. Like because everything else I played well. It was just football, so it was always like the last person stood there with one other with either one other ethnic person or whatever it
Ahmad,
was.
you know what? My experience is so different to yours
Mm.
because when I was playing football for my school team at Rutherford, I was actually a good player. I was at number 7.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
So,
that. Where you were,
so,
I
um,
know you were.
so the
Yeah.
thing is, do you know when you were saying that you felt excluded, but
Mm.
because I was in the football club, in the football team, I
Yeah.
was one of the boys. So when I used to go to the matches and stuff,
Mm.
I didn't feel. Do you know the whole thing about when you're part of a gang, you don't.
Yeah.
Everything else is oblivious, whatever taunts there
Yeah.
may be.
Uh,
So I didn't actually experience any of that.
mm.
So more recently, maybe it's about a year, 6 months, 8 months ago, when there was supposed to be those race. When the city centre was, there's going to be some EDF protests and stuff like that in the
Mm.
city centre.
Mm.
And I think it was a Saturday, and I was saying to myself, well, hold on. Everyone was saying, well, don't go into the city centre, don't go to the football. And I'm thinking, well, why would I not go to the football? Because when I get to the football, that's my that's where I feel actually protected, in that I'm a part of NUFC, and I'm not going to get racially abused when I go to the football
Mm.
with my black and white top on. So I was saying that, well, I'm not gonna change my daily kind of pathway because of a EDF demo that was going on, where there was lots of police and stuff anyway. Not that I want to go and take on the whole gang of people, but I just felt that there's no need for me to change. So interesting. It's a really, really interesting story that you shared. And at the end of it, like you've epitomized, it's all about feeling that club is one city, one club, and we're all there, support it, we love it. It's all we have a deep connection with it, whichever way that connection has historically got us to where we are.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And equally, I'd written this on the way to Wembley, Jeff. So it was,
Brilliant.
sat on the train, um, and it is interesting. That's why I'd said at the beginning, you've had a distinctly different experience to me, um, and I'd even go so far to say, up until a point, I've been a bit of a fair weather supporter. As in, yes, 2003, 2004, we had a box and things like that. And, you'd go along, and then occasionally you'd go along to different matches and hospitality. And it was more about the hospitality rather than the football. Um, and, despite my son having such a passion for football, sadly, he continues to support the wrong team,
So hold
um,
on.
which was,
How was Yusuf?
just don't ask. It was.
So he
Oh,
didn't have mixed
man.
emotions at all, did he not? Or
Nah. Oh, no. I mean, look, he'd gone into Wembley Stadium with a very smug, feeling, like proper smug feeling, to the extent where he'd bought, um, he'd got a black and red scarf. If there was a
the joint?
scarf,
Yeah, the joint
which
one.
was, so on one half of the scarf it was Liverpool, and on the other half was Newcastle, and he had tied it in such a way that the only thing visible was a Liverpool scarf, right? So he had that. And I was like, that's outrageous. And I ripped it off him, as in, but I didn't notice it for quite some time. But he was stood there, like really smug and proud. And he wanted a hand, and he wanted, those foam hands. And they were selling the foam hands that were either black and white for Newcastle United, or red for Liverpool. And he then found one that said England, and it was red. So he then brought the red hand in and turned it round. So the only thing you could see was was so I was like chuckling on one hand, literally, because but equally, if anyone was to take a picture at one point, there would have been all of this sort of, array of black and white and the scarves, and then the single standout, red hand and a red scarf type thing. But yeah, he was depressed. He was like like we would have been, as in, but even more, Jaff. So imagine how you would have felt had you
No,
not.
but I think it's different for Liverpool fans. So I mean, they were disappointed, but I think they were gracious, and also they've got bigger fish to fry. So they've got the Premier League on the horizon. So I think the blow to them is lot lower than what it would have been to us.
Oh no, no. Okay. My point being, it is, but if you imagine, like, he was really depressed,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
right?
Just
As in sincerely and significantly. And then the other things to consider as a 12-year-old, right?
mm,
So, I mean, yes, I appreciate this is our Newcastle United special edition radio show. In fact,
yeah, yeah,
we should
absolutely.
have like, a presentation somewhere, shouldn't we? On this is Newcastle United, and this is what's happening. And I have got a presentation that Jamie's pulled together, but uh, I don't know for you, Jaff, but the whole weekend. Yeah, it was, we got up, it was so stressful trying to get to London, and then you were there. But London on the Saturday was just black and white, right? I
Yeah,
mean, came out in King's Cross, people letting off smoke things. I've got videos of this, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like the whole of London, the biggest city in the UK, the capital, right? Millions of people living there, overcome black and white. Like everywhere was just black and white.
yeah. The thing that hit me was, where were all the Liverpool fans? So how come I didn't see hardly any Red Scarves in London, in central London, in on the way to Wembley? It was so strange. It was surreal.
Um, I, you're absolutely right. Is the thing. It very much is a. We were looking, and actually, my son was. I think they're in Wandsworth. Let's go to Wandsworth. That's where they're congregating, right? But actually, going back to the point that you've made around how big of a deal it was for us compared to them, a lot of them just traveled down on the Sunday and traveled back. It was,
Yeah,
I mean, if you looked at Wembley Stadium, like half an hour before, the the Liverpool side was primarily empty,
yeah,
and then right before the end, like literally, at the 156th minute or whatever it was that it went on for, because that was a joke. It was emptied. Like it just,
yeah,
as quickly as people came in, people went out. Whereas actually, if and I'm so glad they didn't. If I was there and I've come down, I'd still want to see a trophy lifted, even if it was the other side type
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I wouldn't want to. It's not like a home game, is it? Where you've like, oh, you've turned up, they've played
yeah,
rubbish, you're going home. It's like
yeah,
Wembley.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's anyway. You're absolutely right, but I just couldn't believe how black and white it was, like
Mhm.
everywhere. And our hotel was across the road from that Mad Dog pub thing. We didn't go in, but we took a picture outside. It was crazy. And then you walked down, we literally walked from there to Covent Garden and seeing people, everywhere, and then got to Covent Garden, and it was just crazy. Covent Garden, seeing it like that. I don't think, I don't know this. At Trafalgar Square, you imagine, they've had various things and whatever else.
Mm.
Covent Garden just
Yeah,
didn't know what had hit it, and
yeah,
all of the shops, and you could just see the tourists and the visitors like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then they'd created a drinking zone, so it was the only place in London where fans could drink. Obviously we don't, but like everyone that I was with, could see they just all had like bags, carrier bags,
yeah, yeah. They got all the
in
cans, haven't they?
and all the cans, and it was just like one of the funny. It was like, the what I probably, what you would have associated, because then it reflects on Newcastle, doesn't it, from an international, right?
Mm.
Is these people, these lager type people, stood on everything, drinking beer with their cans in
Yeah,
plastic carrier bags.
yeah,
Everyone. I was surprised the kids and the dogs and everything else didn't have a can, because it would have, like, that's the type of thing it was. But yeah, it was just, and Covent Garden from the morning of the Saturday all the way, because they then went back on the Sunday, and it was on Sunday night as well. People congregated back at Covent Garden after the match because they were staying there. It was just brilliant.
yeah. It was a most incredible experience. Such a long wait, and just when it finally came, it was just incredible. I think what was one of the most poignant things, well, after all of those celebrations in the stadium, Amal, when we were walking down Wembley Way, I couldn't believe the silence, because I think the fans had left it all on the pitch. and it's actually so tiring, you know, given being that vocal for that length of time. It was an hour, you know, before kickoff, a good 45 to an hour after kickoff, 90 minutes of the game. So 3, 4 hours yelling on the top of your voice. And I think that just sapped the energy to the point on the Wembley Way, apart from the odd splinters of people, you know, celebrating. Most people were just so quiet because they didn't know what hit them. And that was just it was just such an amazing experience, and that we can finally, you know, be proud, and we can, we've won something, and it makes such a big difference because it just adds so much, takes away so much pressure, and it gives us a bit of weight as fans because the songs that we've been singing is, you know, you laughed at us when we went down. Who, you know, who is laughing now? I mean, those type of daft songs, and hopefully,
Who's that eagle United?
so now we can,
Anyway, it was brilliant fun, right? Is what
yeah.
it was, and actually, it's a really, really,
I think obviously there's a, just on the topic of football, just maybe to round up. Obviously, there's going to be big celebrations on Saturday the 29th. I think they're not sure whether it's going to be at the Moor or whether it's going to be the bus parade around the city.
it's yeah. I mean, you did hear it here first, but you didn't. It's the Moor.
It is the Moor.
Where they,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's
Mhm.
the plan. And yeah, it
I
is.
mean, that's
So
probably not a bad thing, I guess.
I think it's good. Well, it's nice to have a bus and go around and whatever else, but I think given the level of support and the fact that you're going to get 150,000 people on the moor, I think is and obviously people will have to go there and come back, and then England's playing today as well. Thanks, isn't it?
Yeah, England's match is today against Albania, isn't it? It is today, yes.
Yeah, yeah, because all the footballers have gone down for that. And then thank you. And then on Sunday, it's Newcastle United versus Sunderland.
Yeah, the ladies, and it's the first time where you're going to be able to actually see the cup. So that's why
Yeah,
there's over 30,000 tickets being sold, which is a record.
yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, we always support them anyway. I've supported, sponsored them, and things like that. So, and actually, we've took. I'm taking my younger daughter and my wife as well as my son.
So you're going along on Sunday?
Yeah, we're going on
Yeah,
Sunday. Yeah,
brilliant.
we'd got the hospitality things, so I booked them ages ago. So it's like it's
Oh,
quite So you imagine because it's the next thing in St James's, so you can imagine how many people actually now will be sat there going, "Well, I'm just going to go and get some tickets, and I want to
yeah,
be there." And it's like it's the first big thing at St James's, isn't it?
yeah, of course. But I'm just waiting for the second against Brentford because that's going to be just incredible, isn't it?
Mm,
The
mm,
first time the men come back to
yeah.
play another game. Before then, there must be wild. There'll be some wild celebrations, and there'll be the cup will be going around on that day for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and get my picture taken with a cup. To be honest, is what I'm gonna do. So let's anyway. I've got a couple of presentations, Jaff. Let's get into the actual presentation. Can you see the slides?
Yeah. I can see it.
All right, okay. So that's me and you there. I've changed my camera a bit. Does it look better? And I've got a light here.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Anyway, it was just a bit. The other one, the lighting wasn't great on it. So we've spoken about the cup and the Carabao Cup final winners, which is they didn't make that much money, did they? It's £100,000 and it's a £50,000 for the runners up. I suppose it's not about that though, is it?
Is that how much they get?
Yeah,
150
100,000.
grand.
No, they get 100, and the
What?
runners up get 50.
Jesus, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
How much is that
But
between? How much is that between 15 players at 10 grand a piece?
I don't think it's the club that gets it, doesn't it? Is it not it's not the players, is it? It's the club. Um anyway, in the news. So Amazon, this is interesting, Jeff, right? From a business perspective, is um Amazon boycott could cost up to 47 million pound in lost UK sales. So there's a growing consumer backlash against um, against Amazon and Tesla and things like that, right? Because I mean, ultimately, because of the relationship with America and things like that. But Amazon's perceived political affiliations could see UK shoppers joining their US counterparts in boycotting the retail giant, potentially costing it up to £47 million in lost sales, according to delivery expert Parcel Hero. In the US, consumer activism is on the rise, with 9% of Amazon shoppers last week planning to participate in an economic blackout against the company. A Guardian Harris Powell found that a quarter of American shoppers have abandoned their favorite retailers over political stances, and 40% have adjusted their spending based on social beliefs. Anyway, it goes on, but the point is, what do you think about sort of that type of thing?
I understand it, the boycotting particular companies because of a political position. I find that the sustainability of that, you've got these big beliefs. Are you able to sustain those beliefs in an emergency when you need to use that particular organization? How strong are your beliefs? I think boycotting does hurt companies. Um, it's a very difficult one. Um, but I don't know how long it's going to last them on. And yes, there's going to be damage in the short term, but I think in the longer term, I think they will ride it out. A company the size of Amazon and come back and hit the same type of levels of profit that they would want to make. They'll find a way.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, and I agree. And it's like, for me, there's a finite balance, isn't there,
Mm,
about convenience
yeah,
and the fact as a business we are relying. No one else can offer what Amazon does.
yeah,
That's part of the challenge. So
yeah,
a lot of our stock, a lot of our sort of consumables, a lot of things. It's just convenient. If you order something the day before, you
yeah,
realize you're running out or you're preparing, it comes the next day and it's delivered. It's as simple as that.
yeah,
So it's a important point. Flip side of that is your social value. Your ethicals and your morals and things like that. Um, so it's interesting. It will hit them, but ultimately, here's the thing, right, Jeff? It's and I regularly ask people to consider this. Who is it really going to affect? It's people who are in jobs. It's people who work for these entities and organizations, isn't it? That's the bottom line. It's like who works for Amazon? All right, we're going to lay off some people. That's what we're going to do. All of a sudden, it's your father, your mother, your uncle, your sister, your daughter, your son, your whatever lost the job.
mm,
This is the short-sightedness of a lot of these actions, and some of my challenges with some of the boycotting associated with places like Israel, because and yes, you're right to do whatever you can to prevent, you know, people dying wherever. But part of that issue is it's the people on the ground. It's like there was a boycott against McDonald's. Well, actually, a very good friend of ours who just happens to be from a Pakistani descent is a franchisee. It's him who's being affected. It's not McDonald's, is it?
mm.
He employs a lot of Muslims and young people and things like that. Gives a lot of opportunities. Immediately, well, let's boycott McDonald's. But actually, it's the small person who constantly and consistently gets impacted. So it's how do people think through on that? Um, is part of the issue. But anyway,
Um,
it's a
very
challenge, isn't it?
it's a tricky subject. It's a very sensitive subject, and you just yeah. I mean, God, if everyone were going to go out and make a decision on what products to use and where to purchase from based on political affiliation, um, I think then we're not built that way. I don't think, Amar. I think who does background researches on so many other companies that you could be wearing with designer brands and A, B, C, and D that you don't actually know what their history is and where their origins are. Um, so I think if you do it with Amazon because it's a big company, you know that they've got a particular position, but then there could be so many other brands that might have a similar view that you're not aware of.
Yeah.
So it is very tricky. Um, and I guess it's up to the individual how they want to go about their business.
Yeah, no, it is. You're right, and yeah, I think it's a personal choice thing, isn't it?
Mm.
Is what it fundamentally is. Anyway, there was a couple of other things that I wanted to mention. Veterans and Reserve. We hosted an event at Opencast down at Holt's Yard where we talked about veterans and the support available to veterans and the value that veterans can bring and do bring to organisations, but also reservists. So as the honorary colonel of 101 Regiment Royal Artillery, I um, am incredibly keen to encourage people to explore the opportunities, the value, the worth that being a reserve has to offer. You get to travel the world, you get paid, you get part of a community. You were talking about football, Jaff. Well, the armed forces community is a bigger, more powerful community. There's real camaraderie, and when you're wearing a uniform, you feel special. You feel as if you belong. And it's probably the same with that football shirt analogy as well, isn't it? It's when you're wearing something. So, reach out, understand more, and learn a little bit about that. Uh, Business topic of the week. SME Centre of Excellence. Some highlights from Kevin, Phil, and the team. They've been supporting hundreds of businesses from across a wide range of industries, from textiles, education, consulting, healthcare, and pretty much everything else. Quarter one, so in the first 3 months, they've 2 times growth, so 100% growth from initial projections, 3,500 hours of business support delivered, 350 plus businesses supported, 38% increase in digital client engagements, one-to-one, 93% of businesses reported increased efficiency, 85% of businesses improved their financial strategy, high client satisfaction, and working with all of the local authorities across Northumberland, Tyne Wear, Durham, everywhere else. If you're looking to start a business or scale a business, SME Centre of Excellence is the place. And SME provides the support to the awesome Become Awesome program as well, which is led by ABC to help Asian women become more successful entrepreneurs. Um, we've got the Curry Club next week. It's an iftar special at RBC Brew and Dolphin. Delighted to say they are the headline sponsors this year of the ABC Awards. Right up there, demonstrating their commitment, and they're going to get immense value from being involved now. The Curry Club, I think it's nearly sold out, is next Thursday. I've mentioned it's an iftar special, but if you're a financial professional, business owner, leader, entrepreneur, investor, then this special edition Curry Club is hosted in partnership with RBC Brewing Dolphin, and food will be served in line with the fast opening times of Ramzan. The event is in the centre of Newcastle, so please do consider coming along to that. Jaff, you'll be there, won't you?
Yes, inshallah.
Yeah.
And I should hopefully be there. I always find it difficult on certain evenings, but
Yeah, hopefully this evening you won't. And then I've got a very short presentation to share with you on the International Trade Centre, Jaff, so that people can understand a bit more what's going on there at the International Space Station. So let me share that in the next 5 minutes, rattle through this as well. Get your views and input on this, Jaff,
yeah,
is what I'm going to do. So there's the branding. Jaff, what do you think about that?
looks amazing, man.
So let me just briefly explain the branding to you. These triangles reflect Najdi style of Nordic periods. So from the Prophet's days in the Middle East, there's these three upward triangles. And obviously they then also convert into up arrows demonstrating a launch pad. And then this down arrow in a different color demonstrates a soft landing. So when you land into the UK, the International Space Station at AirView will support you in every way. It also has a number of other connotations and things like that, but it's all about, two-way arrow there, international trade, bilateral, Najdi style, so historic, incredibly powerful, and for the benefit of everyone, the International Space Station is now a registered trademark of mine. So I've registered the trademark International Space Station, which I was just like shocked at that no one in the world had ever registered it. So I've got that. Anyway, growing global community is what it is. What does that mean? Well, quite simply, it's part of my group of companies. So we provide the right support at the right time to organizations and individuals across the public, private, and third sectors to start, survive, and thrive. We operate across various different areas, from social enterprises to charities, training to digital transformation, and everything else in between. We've helped over 14,000 businesses. We've got 300 plus service providers, and we've helped to raise a lot of money for other businesses, is what we've done. Newcastle United, obviously the club was taken over. We've used it as a partnership mechanism, and Facila Investment Group, part of Saudi Business Links, are the first tenant at Airview Park, 10,000 square foot dedicated space. So, global expansion. So, anybody who wants to grow globally understands this. It's broken. Businesses struggle to scale beyond borders. Expanding into new markets is a high risk, complex, and expensive challenge for businesses. 90% of startups fail to scale internationally due to the lack of investment, market knowledge, and strategic partnerships. Accessing capital is fragmented. Investors want global scalability, but scale ups struggle to secure the right funding at the right time. And business model innovation. So, how do you innovate your business? And IP protection remain risky, especially in cross border markets where trust and regulatory barriers exist. I mean, you just need to look at America and places like that. Everyone's sort of becoming more protectionist. Navigating new markets is overwhelming. Regulatory hurdles, cultural barriers, and disconnected trade networks slow down international expansion. The solution: ISS AirView, where you eliminate these barriers by integrating investment, market expansion, and exclusive and inclusive innovation into a single, secure, and scalable platform, empowering businesses to scale 10x, trade, and thrive globally. And anyway, it's a one-stop hub. There's lots of text here, but I just want to say we're creating a real global, growing global community by providing the right support at the right time and providing all of the knowledge and know-how. So the pains that we address, so you're struggling to expand globally, lack of funding, service providers, what do you get? We're providing investment, access to international partners, and all of that. And why choose ISS AirView? It's the first place of its kind. We've got access to global ecosystems, and it's flexible and scalable membership. And yeah, this is what you need to do to find out and reach out more. Jeff, what we're doing is creating a real community, right? So you get a physical space. So you get a desk with 50 other scale ups all on the ground floor. On the first floor, we've got inward investment. You're connecting, you're collaborating with them. You're then getting language. So we've got Arabic tutors, we've got Hindi, Punjabi tutors, we've got Turkish tutors. So every single week you'll get rudimentary introduction to language. We've got health and fitness, so yoga, we've got mindfulness coming in, we've got boot camps, we've got a relationship with a boxing gym where you're starting to think about yourself. And if you're doing that as a collective, and then we're taking trade missions to Saudi, to India, we've got trade missions coming back. So, we've got a number of Saudi ministries coming over this year. We've got UAE. We've got 3 or 4 trade missions from India coming over. So it's huge. It's massive.
I think for you to be able to have even the foresight to think on this scale is just amazing, because you would expect this type of initiative being taken by those big conglomerates, and you're just an independent, but have got that big grand vision. And I think especially at this time, Amar, where I think it's such a it's a time where everything is, how would you describe it? There's so much turmoil.
Yeah.
And I think this is the time where you need that extra level of collaboration to be able to pick and go turn the corner, and you've got somebody else from a different country, culture, where opportunities may be so much the problems that you're facing in place A, there might be a solution in location B. And to be able to merge those people together in this climate, I think it's just an incredible idea.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's been decades in the making. So, what we've done here, proven this business model, what we've done with Yola, our training company, we've delivered, we've refined, we've tested, we've then gone to MIT, Babson, Y Combinator, we've tested and tried all of the best programs of support and gone, that's the best bit there, that's the best bit there, let's combine all of that, and then let's create an environment. So we're talking to various investment houses who will then support the businesses that are there. Because the other thing from an investor's perspective is, where do I go where there's scaling companies who are pre-qualified? So this isn't the space for everyone. In fact, it's probably not the space for that many people. What this space is, you want to grow 10x, right? Now, the turmoil you're referring to is a very important point, because actually lots of people are leaving this country. Now, what we want to do is say, don't leave the country, but come and explore elsewhere, right? We'll support you. We're creating a community. You're then supporting one another. It's a lonely thing, growing a business, scaling a business, being a leader of a business. And actually, the businesses that we're referring to, they're established multinationals. They just haven't looked at these particular marketplaces. And even if they have, they don't know how to expand. So, it's really unique. It's really exciting. Yes, it's hugely risky, but now is the time to be thinking about internationalization, about growing global. Now is the time to set up a ISS AirView, and it's so exciting, and it just pulls everything together. And what we're saying is we're working with the partners, Department of Trade and various others, but actually, we also know that those services don't provide everything that a business needs. And sometimes you need to do things in this particular way to get the results that you want and need. And if someone's been going back and forth to India and Saudi for a few years now, for decades now, then they've done their hard work. They'll be your tour guide. And what we're doing, so Saudi's going to start investing. Now's the catalyst. It's going to be a lot more here. We're bringing in Saudi businesses, ministries. They're going to land at AirView, and then they're going to go out and buy other products and services. So naturally, we're looking for offering a full concierge service. That's what's really exciting. So anyone flying in private jet, come in, set up what they need to do professionally. We'll do the meetings. We'll organize everything for them. And then, our staff will provide them with all of the support they need, whether it's the best restaurants, whether it's the best hotels, whatever it is. It's literally taking care of all of that. And that's such an exciting proposition because we've developed it and no one else has done that yet. And you're right. It is an exciting, big conglomerate type of opportunity. We've already earmarked the place in Tees Valley, so we're opening another one there this year, beginning of next year, in Riyadh, in Bangalore, and then down in Doncaster. We've got a 3-year strategy. We're raising millions of pounds. We're growing this significantly, and we're scaling it, is what we're doing.
Amazing. And are you already in the offices, or?
Yeah, our center manager starts on Monday, and then after that it'll be fully operationalized within 2 weeks. So there's desks there, there's stuff there. We're just pulling all of the final touches together. And then, as I say, inshallah, by Eid, we'll be celebrating Eid there. The big Eid party is what we'll be doing.
Have to pop down after Eid and check it all out.
You will. Anyway, you've been listening to Amar and
Jaff
live from our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM. I think it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
We'll be back. All the best. Well done to Newcastle United again. Yeah. We'll be back next Friday with a Ramzan special. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.